This is part one of my mostly complete guide on how to go from bronze, or really any lower rank for that matter, to Grandmaster. And I really don't think it's that difficult. If you have decent mechanics, you play consistently, and you gain enough game knowledge, you can absolutely reach Grandmaster, sometimes even in a relatively short amount of time. Although for the average player, probably not. But but regarding the points I'm going to go over in this series, if you are familiar with all these points and you know the game well, you'll be so far ahead of the average casual player. It will, even again, even if your mechanics are kind of janky, although you should develop good aim and such, you'll still be able to climb the ranks. Now, I started in season 4.5. Season 5 again, I was bronze, and then I reached platinum. And then in season 6, I reached Grandmaster. Again, 60% win rate. There was a discrepancy with the. Well, what I'll say is this, just really quick. There is absolutely an algorithm that manipulates your win rate and will basically rig certain games. There's absolutely some sort of algorithm at play. I don't know if it's EOMM, but if there's a huge discrepancy regarding your actual skill level and the rank that you're in, let's say, like for example, 60% win rate. I started in Gold 3 after my placement matches, and I made my way all the way up to Grandmaster 3 in one season. It's because my skill level was so much higher than the actual rank I was in. So even though there was some manipulation by the matchmaker, it's not as apparent. But when you get closer to the rank that you actually belong in terms of skill, you'll see very consistent wins and like winning and losing streaks. So I, having a losing streak doesn't necessarily mean you don't belong in that rank, because a win streak will usually follow up. Unless your stats are just absolutely abysmal, then yeah, it's clear that you're boosted and you don't belong in that rank. And then yeah, season 6.5, peaked at GM1, so close to Celestial, and yet so far. I don't know why I said it like that. But yeah, for example, like in none of my games do I feel like I was doing absolutely horrendously. Like some games were pretty bad, and I still make mistakes. But yeah, for the most part, it's not like I was going 2-20 or something. I don't even think that's possible in this game, but still. And again, if you're a decent player, just because of the way that the point system works, where you'll usually gain more than you lose, you will eventually be able to rank up. Unless, again, you're just absolutely nowhere near this level, then yeah, you're just going to get way more losses than you win. So yeah, as you can see, win streak, kind of a loss streak, win streak. Diamond 1, a little bit of a struggle, but Diamond 2 and Diamond 3 were kind of a breeze. Now, I'll go over these points. I'll try to do my best to make them concise, and then I'll give some examples. Maybe I should play some gameplay in the back so people will pay attention. Okay, I'll just load up Rocket, whatever. So anyways, the first point I'll say is, yeah, I'm just going to go AFK for a second, because I'm physically reading off of a piece of paper. So anyways, point one I would say is learn a few characters and learn them very well. So you want to know all their abilities, you want to learn their strengths and weaknesses, you want to learn what matchups they're good against, what matchups they struggle with, just like individual matchups. You want to learn what team compositions or team comps they're good against and what team comps they play well in. That's kind of beyond the scope of this video, but there are so many other videos you can find. Just understanding this basic principle and being mindful of this is good enough. Also, like, I understand it's a video game, it's not like that deep or that important, so a lot of this you'll just learn from experience. When I went from Gold 3 to Grandmaster and during that one season, I didn't watch any guides on any characters. I just took the characters into practice, like saw their skill sets, like Rocket, for example. I mean, he's super easy, bad example, but still. I didn't watch any guides. I just learned from playing the game and seeing what works and what didn't work. So a lot of this, yeah, don't really need to like overthink it. And then what else? Yeah, you also want to learn like the different play styles. Like some characters are flexible, they can work with a variety of play styles, and some characters have to be played in a very particular way, or else you're just not getting value. You're kind of just like throwing. But and then point two. Point two I would say is you need to learn multiple roles well. So for instance, when I first got to Grandmaster, I mostly played support just because a lot of people don't want to play support. It's in pretty much every match you can be able to play support. However, let's say you're mainly a DPS player. Everyone wants to play DPS. DPS is always the first role to get filled, whether it's gold, whether it's platinum, diamond. Grandmaster. I don't know the ranks above that because I've never played in those. So I played in like Celestial 3 lobbies, like when I was Grandmaster 1, but still. Everyone wants to play DPS. So you need to learn how to play different roles because just to be considerate to your teammates and because it's a team game, you will sometimes have to fill and you can't always play the character that you want. So just for the sake of winning more matches than not, you need to learn how to be flexible. And for example, the problem I had was that I mostly played support. So when I had to fill Vanguard or DPS, Duelist, I guess it's called, my Vanguard, like for example, I could say maybe I was Grandmaster in terms of skill with the supports, the strategists, but with Vanguard or DPS, I was a much lower skill rank because I never really played these characters. So the characters that you learn very, very well, you have to make sure that they're maintained. And for example, if you're in Diamond, you need to make sure you can play Vanguards at a Diamond level, or you can play DPS at a Diamond level, and maybe even supports occasionally. Just learn how to play multiple roles and make sure it's not like you're only good at one role and all the other roles you're just going to be throwing. Because again, it is inevitable that you will have to fill. I mean, sometimes I really wanted to play support, but someone would lock in Invisible Woman, someone would lock in Cloak and Dagger. So then I need to play Doctor Strange or Groot or who else do I play? Venom sometimes. I'm not amazing on Vanguard, but whatever. So yeah, it's always important to be well-rounded. Now, point number 3 I would say is ability usage. This one is very, very important. So if you take anything away from this video, you want to remember this. You want to know when to use your abilities, when not to use your abilities, and when to save your abilities. And there are general principles you need to follow, and there are also situational dependent things that you need to keep in mind. Now this one I'll use an example. Let's just bring out Invisible Woman. So let's say this, my team's already dead. I already failed as a support, but let's say this is my team. Let's just pretend they're not actively getting killed. So let's say my team is having a team fight. So I'm all the way over here. So I jump into the team fight. Okay, I do this. I throw my shield on one of my opponents. Well, what's the problem with playing like this? The problem with playing like this, and you'll see this in the lower ranks, is I just used all my abilities. So okay, let's just jump again. So in this moment, all right, let's also push someone. If you're just using all your abilities willy-nilly, not really thinking about it, just using them as fast as possible to try to like maximize damage or something, well, if there's a Black Panther, Spider-Man, Magic, whatever, if they jump on me, I literally have no chance of surviving because I already used up all my abilities. So let's say, for example, I know that there's a Spider-Man on the enemy team or a Black Panther. I'm not going to use the double jump super willy-nilly. I'm going to save the double jump specifically for when I get attacked. And I'm going to try to sparingly use the force push unless, like, let's say there's an enemy on this ledge and I can pull them towards me and then my team will kill them and finish them off. That would be a good usage of the force push or pull. But generally, I want to be saving it for if Spider-Man attacks me, I can push him away and then jump and also deploy my shield. So, but let's say the enemy team doesn't have these dive characters and I'm a little bit more safe in the back line. Well, then, like, as I'm healing my team and doing damage, I can use my abilities more often and I can use them in a more offensive way just because I don't need to save them for a specific character. So, like, let's say the enemy team has no dive. So I can play behind here, I can throw this down if they're really grouped together, just get a little bit of damage. Or maybe if they have a flying character, use this little whirlwind thing, whatever it's called, to try to knock them down. And maybe if they're overextending a bit, like their Vanguard's overextending, I can pull them into my team. Or if there's like I don't know, Penny Parker's a spider nest, some mines, pull them into there. Or I don't know, just get them closer to your team. You can use it more offensively and you can use your abilities like less conservatively. And then yeah, the force push is also decent damage. But yeah, this applies to pretty much every role. So basically, you always want to have some abilities available to bail you out, like in this situation, or save them for certain characters or certain situations. Because let's say, for example, I just use this ability right away. Well, now for 10 seconds, I'm not going to have this ability. And what if there's an opponent standing on the ledge, or an opponent that I could finish off if I could push or pull them? or I get attacked from behind, I need to push them away. Well, now I don't have that ability. So yeah, you always want to, don't be too conservative, but also don't use your abilities way too quickly and then have nothing left when you actually need it. So it's all about balance, and it depends on what the strategy of your enemy team and the enemy team composition, and also the composition of your own team, like how your abilities are gonna play into your teammates' abilities and help them out. I don't know if that was the best explanation, but I think that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, what I'll do in the beginning of the match is I'll see what characters my team has. Like, obviously, you know that right off the bat. And then from the first encounter, I'll see what characters the enemy team has. And depending on what characters the enemy team has, I'll make a little checklist in my mind of, okay, I need to keep these abilities for those specific characters. And then, yeah, you just go on from there. I think that mostly makes sense. Maybe I could elaborate. And then point number 4, I'd say pay attention. What did I write down? I'm physically reading off of a piece of paper. How much time do I have left? Okay. I'll try not to keep this video too long or make this video too long. Point number 4, I would say pay attention to, yeah, the your team and the enemy team composition and then build a strategy around that. I think that's pretty simple. So, yeah, know what characters the other team has, know what characters you have, know what know what to do in certain situations and know what your team's capable of or not capable of. Like again, for example, going back to what I was sort of discussing, if maybe if I was DPS or something, let's say I have a problem where my supports keep getting dived. Like the enemy team is just abusing my supports with like Spider-Man, Venom, whatever, Black Panther. So maybe as a DPS player, I might want to switch to a character that can deal with that, such as Namor. Namor, he's, good little squiddies, whatever. But if the enemy team isn't playing dive, then maybe I can play the other DPS characters that I'd normally play. So yeah, just being aware of that again is going to put you really above the average player, especially in the lower ranks, who just completely don't care about team composition. I mean, for example, well, I think this was maybe even a platinum game I was in or a diamond game. The enemy team had an Iron Man, and he was just spamming us for free. And one of our guys stayed on Moon Knight. Moon Knight is it's very hard to hit flyers with a projectile that takes time to travel, as opposed to hit scan. Hit scan is really good against flyers because it travels instantaneously. But if, like for example, Moon Knight, where's good old Moon Knight? See that there's a little bit of travel time when I throw the projectile. So for a flyer that's just moving back and forth, by the time that I throw my projectile, they're already in a different position. Whereas if it's really close, it doesn't matter. Like no one's getting out of the way of this projectile. So that's why against flyers you would want hit scan characters like Punisher or Hela or Phoenix. What are the other hit scan characters? Whatever, Black Widow. But yeah, that's also something important to keep in mind. I don't know if those were the best examples, but like generally that's easy to understand. And for example, maybe if your team has DPS, like maybe if your team has Black Panther or Spider-Man or another dive character, Magic, maybe you'd want to consider playing Venom or something just to help them out with the dive, assuming you already have another tank. I think solo tank Venom usually doesn't work for the most part, but yeah, that's how I play Venom, usually to help out the dive characters. What else was I going to say? Okay, I guess on to the next point. So the next point, again, this is very, very important, is to track ultimates and don't waste ultimates. So maybe, for example, let's say I'm playing Cloak and Dagger. So if I'm playing Cloak and Dagger, let's say they have a Magneto. So everyone knows Magneto is probably the best and most consistent counter to Cloak and Dagger's ultimate. So let's say in the first team fight, I have my ultimate, and no one on my team is even close to getting an ultimate. So I could reasonably assume that probably the enemy Magneto doesn't have his ultimate yet. So when I ult, I don't need to be worried about that. But let's say, for example, I know the enemy Magneto, he hasn't ulted. It's been like 2 or 3 team fights, Well, I know the ult charges changed, but still. Let's say I can reasonably assume the enemy team has a Magneto ultimate. So now I need to be thinking about what is the positioning of Magneto, and when I finish doing this ultimate, where am I going to end up so that he doesn't just dunk on me, right? I mean, also Iron Man, like sometimes Iron Man can also just obliterate Cloak and Dagger, so got to be careful with that. And yeah, this will really determine whether or not you win team fights. Just knowing what ultimates the enemy team has available. And for example, let's say you already win a team fight. Like, let's say, hypothetically, we've killed 3 of the enemy team. There's only 3 left. It's a 3v6. Don't waste your ultimate finishing off the last 3 players that your team can easily dispatch without any ultimates. Just don't do it. Because that means in the next team fight, you're almost guaranteed to get washed if you just blow all your ultimates. So that that's one thing you'll see, for example. Like, I don't know. Maybe with, yeah, again, you won't see this in the super high ranks, but in like Platinum or Diamond, even I've seen this. Yeah, I'm not going to keep this video too long for this point, but for example, let's say we've already killed some of the enemy team. Like, okay, this guy's dead, there's 2 other opponents, and one guy just wants to get the highlight, so he uses his ultimate on like the last 2 or 3 enemy players. I mean, it's like, yeah, you killed them, and that was efficient, but you just wasted your ultimate. You're not going to get it back for a long time. And it was completely unnecessary, because we would have won the team fight if you had not used that ultimate. But what that means now is you can't use that ultimate again for the next few team fights. So we're probably just going to get run over, unless we have a bunch of ults in reserves. But you're going to do a lot more for your team if, again, you save your ultimate until it's absolutely necessary or it can accomplish something. That's the number one way that I saw people wasting their ultimates, is the team fight is already completely won and they still want to use their ultimate to finish off the last few players that would have already died anyways. So maybe instead of ulting these 2 guys who are going to die anyways, maybe just save your ultimate for the next fight. Maybe sneak around, do something crafty. I don't know, it's Iron Man. Like, just don't use it like that. That's just not the way to use your ultimate. And also, for example, if you have a DPS ult and you know the enemy has no support ultimates, that's the perfect time to go. Like, that's when you can rack up the kills. But if you know the enemy team has a support ultimate, like, I don't know, what would be a good example for this? Well, I'll just say it as a general statement. They're probably going to use their ultimate the moment that, like, if you have a DPS ult that's super high damage, the moment you pop your ult, the enemy team's probably going to respond with a defensive ultimate just to save their guys. So, unless it's something like Iron Man ult that could literally just be blocked by a single shield. But if it's another ultimate, they're probably going to go defensive. So that's just something to keep in mind. Yeah, I don't think I really need to elaborate on that too much. Okay, I think that's the end of part 1. I think this video's been long enough. In part 2, I'll cover the other points and I'll try to give some examples. But yeah, just understanding the few things that I went over, like being mindful of this in your games, and I don't know, maybe take a few notes if you want. Just being mindful of these things will put you so far ahead of the average player. And again, in part 2, I'm going to go over more stuff, hopefully with examples. So yeah, that's pretty much it.